So this morning I was thinking about how I never really looked at my like mental health or like my trauma as ways of like limiting myself.
Hmm.
I never looked at trauma as not never like, but when I was younger, I didn't look at the things that I had went through, like maybe growing up and stuff like that, as like, oh my God, I went through this, so therefore I can't do that.
Hmm.
I never pictured it like that. I feel like when I got older, even when I got older, it wasn't a thought that, oh, I experienced this thing, so therefore I can't do this thing. It was just one of those things where it was like I would try things and then I would hit like an invisible wall.
Hmm.
And then I'd be like, why is this wall here?
Yeah.
Why am I self-sabotaging? Or like, why am I doing this thing? And then I would have to reflect on your life experiences, your childhood and all that stuff. And you're like, well, I was like, maybe this is why this invisible wall is there.
Hmm.
And then I had to dissect all of that stuff. But I never looked at it like, oh, well, I went through these things, so therefore I can't do something, or I didn't see the most like positive relationship, so therefore I can't have that, or I don't know, like I went through this as a child, so I can't be this as an adult. Like I never processed it in that way. And it makes me think about how many people comment on our content and they're like, oh, well, I didn't see this growing up, or I had this traumatic experience, or well, this is a trigger. And I'm like, I hear you. I feel you. But what does that have to do with what you say you want for yourself?
Hmm.
Should it still stop you, or should you find a way to either like make that trigger no longer be a trigger, or deal with your trauma in a way to where you can start like healing from that, whatever that looks like for you. That way is no longer a barrier or a block for you to get what you say you want out of life.
Yeah.
Because if I would have looked at my life and been like, oh, well, I can't do that, I wouldn't have you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have my child. Like we wouldn't have everything that we have if I would have looked at my life's
Experience
the negative experiences as a way to say, Adoria, you can't have this shit.
Yeah.
Like no, I didn't look at it like that. It's like, okay, well this happened. All right, that's fine. Okay, well how can I pivot?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, what can I do for myself to make sure I can have the experience in the life that I say that I want for myself and for our baby girl and for our marriage. So it's always interesting. I wonder what was the click in that, because some people, they revert to victims and like, okay, well, this is going to hold me back.
Right.
And then some people are like, nah, I'm going to do me, be me, have everything I want in spite of what I've been through. So I wonder what's like the determining like factors on like people going a different direction with that.
Yeah.
I really hope I explained.
No, you did great, boo.
Thank you.
Mental health is such a interesting conversation like these days.
Mm-hmm.
Like we live in a world where now we have more knowledge and understanding about these things than like ever before.
Yeah.
But yet now in our awareness, we've become that much more. And by we, I mean as like a society, like as a people, like handicapped by it.
Mm.
And it's so interesting because you would think that the more knowledge and understanding you have about a certain thing, that would give you the tools, knowledge, and resources to be able to overcome it and overpower it easier.
Mm.
But that's not necessarily the case. It's like now it's been flipped into this thing where it's handicapped people and made people feel less capable or feel like, because they are aware of all of these different aspects of it, to where now they can more clearly use it as their reasoning behind why they can't be something, can't do something, or why they get bothered or triggered, as they say, behind certain things. And it's not become a mean of understanding to overcome. It's become a means of like understanding to know why you can't. And
another
unfortunate.
way to convince yourself that you can't do a thing,
limit yourself,
because you were already feeling that way about yourself anyway. So now you're getting more evidence as to why you can't do this thing
or why you struggle with it.
Right.
And because now it's like when people see an element of difficulty, they're okay with the label or the reasoning behind their past experiences to be logical enough to where why now they can't do it now, rather than it being a reason for them to figure out how to navigate this hard or challenging thing. It's not a reason to keep going. It's a reason to be like, okay, well, this is why I experienced this and why I struggle with it and why I can't do it and why I used to just validate how I feel and what I'm going through or what I've been through or whatever and just leave me the fuck alone. And like, that's not cool. Because life in and of itself, like we always say, is hard. Like we all have our own stuff, our own challenges or whatever. But it's interesting how so many people today pick and choose when that applies.
And I don't even think it's the whole, like I have this thing or whatever. So like, leave me alone. It's more so like, well, I have this trigger. I have this mental health thing. So you need to accommodate me.
Yeah.
You need to make sure you're walking on eggshells because of me and what I went through. That's not life. That's not real life. Like we weren't put on this earth to be so accommodating for everyone. Like I got to watch what I say with every freaking thing. Like everyone should be able to be free to be themselves. Like we shouldn't have to always walk on eggshells about everything all the time just because everyone has certain triggers.
Yeah.
Like what do I look like? Because somebody said this the other day in a comment. They were like, yeah, I have to be like super careful about what I say because you just never know what people have been through, what trauma they've had. I can't imagine not being able to be my full self when I'm talking to people because I'm constantly thinking about, well, what if they have this trauma or what if this triggers them? Like it makes you want to hold back who you actually are.
Because we don't have conversations these days. Like we talk about, so much about depression and PTSD and all of these things. And first off, before I get into what I'm about to say, this is coming from someone clinically diagnosed with extreme depression, anxiety, clinically diagnosed PTSD, who's been to combat, who's been through active shooting, suicides, who's been through a lot of stuff, who's been through months and months and months of hours of therapy, group therapy. Just so we got some context here, I am the subject.
Right.
Per se on paper. I am the person who's had the experiences. So just so we know, this ain't coming from somebody who's being insensitive.
Right.
That part is out the way. Now that that's done, here's what I'm saying. So it's like we've gotten to this point now to where we talk so much about the diagnosis, the depression, the PTSD, the anxiety, all of that stuff, but we don't nearly have conversations as much about resilience and about having the ability to be able to mentally callous our minds and be able to build up the stamina and the endurance to be able to navigate the complexities of life and the difficulty of life.
Right.
Because the thing about it is like, we would like to look at certain triggers or things that people go through and that they experience, in these such sensitive ways, not realizing, man, that you don't get to control another person's triggers and what's alarming to them and whatnot. Like, man, I remember not being able to sit in the middle of a room, and always need to be in a corner and having to see everything around me. Like people don't even understand, like walking behind somebody is triggering for a lot of people. Like there's a whole category of people out there who are just like, imagine being so careful to not walk behind somebody in a crowd of people where you can't help but walk behind somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or you can't say a certain word or touch a shoulder, or like you don't get to determine what that is. Realizing that your existing period can be alarming for somebody. There's people who are triggered just by a man being a male.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There's people triggered by people being confident.
Literally.
Like it's
it
a
is
lot.
an endless freaking spectrum.
Yes.
You know, like imagine trying to accommodate
Everybody.
every single person in your own mind. Like, I don't know what's alarming to somebody, so I'm gonna not do it. You may as well just not exist.
Right.
Like, just don't exist. Cause you don't get to like, hey, before I do anything, what triggers you? People randomly coming up to me, talking to me triggers me.
Right.
So you already messed up.
Right, right.
That's a real thing.
It is,
like there's people, and I know this, I've been in group therapy with people who are highly triggered by people they don't know approaching them in random conversation or whatever. But like, that is so unfortunate that we have that. But at the same time, like I said, we don't have those same conversations around why it's so important to build up resilience and why it's so important to get to a place to where it's not just something that you want everybody to validate and accommodate, more so like than help overcome and get past and get through and things like that. And I say that because even though I've been through so many different things in shooting, and I know that you have too, like I think about like where our life is today and things that we've grown through, and we've experienced in our adulthood, all of the different things that we've had to navigate. Even us being married, like you mentioned, like I never, coming from a child who grew up, single parent household, youngest of 6, I grew up around all the types of abuse. Hood baby, as I be calling it. You know what I'm saying? Like, saw and exposed to way more intense stuff in my neighborhood than I ever was in the Army. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was a war ground. Most people got PTSD and don't even know it. Matter of fact, I wouldn't even say that they do. I feel like you build up such resilience in that environment to where it just becomes normal.
Yep.
It wasn't until I was an adult to where I started to realize, like you said, that certain things can be perceived barriers, so to say, when you're trying to excel or figure out something. But I never looked at what I went through as being a reason as to why I couldn't do something. It's like, just because I'm the, offspring of a single mom, youngest of 6, that never calculated to me that I couldn't have a happy, successful, fulfilling marriage. It never registered that way.
Right.
Like, just because, I didn't see it mean that I couldn't have it.
Right.
Or like, I even think about them like now, like just because, you knew or grew up in an environment that might have been abusive or the way you experience neglect and all of these different things, that means that now that is what my life is destined to be or whatever. Like, I never put the pieces together like that at all.
Right.
But nowadays, it's like people can have an experience and it automatically, becomes a red flag. It triggers something or whatever the case may be. Oh, I can't do this. This is one of my tricks. It's like it's so glorified today.
Like a badge of honor.
Like a badge of honor. And it's like you get to be a part of this cool kids mental health club by having these things rather than talking about what you're doing to overcome it. And a lot of people, they'll say, well, I'm going to therapy and I'm working on it. But you give in to the things that cause you to continue to basically repeat the cycle. Like, you're not actively trying to overcome it. You're actively voicing your irritation, frustrations, difficulty with it, rather than what you're doing to overcome it. And I say that because, like, when I was going through therapy, when I was in IOP, or what intensive outpatient is what that is, we did exposure therapy. So the things that trigger you, what they did was they put us in that environment and they kept increasing the intensity over time to where it didn't bother you. That was a part of it. It's like, oh, this triggers you. Let's give you a lot of that. Let's give you a whole lot of that over time to where it doesn't bother you no more. And it works very well. Like, not giving into the thing that bothers you, but actually facing it to a point to where it doesn't bother you anymore. Building up that resistance. And we don't talk about that.
That's so good because I always think it's interesting when people talk about, therapy and stuff like that. I've been to therapy, like we do family therapy, we do individual therapy. So, but when they talk about therapy, it's like therapy is you don't realize like you're just going to a therapist and maybe talking to them in a room for like maybe 45 minutes to an hour, maybe once a week, however, whatever your conversation is with them. But you're exposed to the world way more than you're exposed to your controlled environment with your therapist.
Yeah.
Because what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to go to therapy, learn from the therapist, figure out what ways to like cope or to manage everything, right? And then you go out into the world and then you practice
what you
learned from therapy. You don't just go to therapy. Well, I didn't just go to therapy. I'll talk about me because I know it's sensitive, but I didn't just go to therapy and was like, okay, I'm just going to give you all these things that I'm going through. And this is my triggers. This is my trauma. And that's it. Now what? Now what? You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, okay, well, now we know that these are my issues. We know that this is what's stopping me. Okay, well, what do I need to do outside of this therapy room in order for me to overcome these things? So now I need to practice what I say I want to overcome.
Right.
If I don't want this to no longer bother me, if I don't want this to be a trigger, if I don't want to always be irritated, annoyed, and all this stuff, I got to work on me outside of the therapy room. I got to read some books. I got to listen to certain podcasts that help me learn, okay, this is something that I'm dealing with. All right, so what do I need to learn about myself more?
Yeah.
Sitting down with myself and reflecting, not just waiting to talk to somebody in order for me to think about me. I'm with me all the time.
More than anybody.
Like, I know what's going on in my head. I feel these triggers. So what? Okay, so in this moment, this is triggering me. Why is this triggering me? What in my life happened to where this clicks in my mind as a problem?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I think like not enough people, you're right. We have so much access to resources, but you still have to look within though. You can have all this information and it can end up damaging you more than fixing you.
Yeah. You know what's, and this is going to sound super left field.
That's fine.
I'm just going to go ahead and call it out now. It's going to
good.
sound super left field, but I'm going to bring it back, and I hope it really makes sense.
Okay.
What's funny is sometimes how we tend to think that just because we have more knowledge and understanding about a certain thing that it makes us more equipped to better deal with it, right?
Right.
But it's like the generations before us like didn't have it, but they were super resilient. Doesn't mean that all of their decisions and the actions that they took were great, because they didn't know how to process certain things and all of that stuff. You know what I mean? We know because we were raised by that generation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they were extremely resilient and able to deal with extreme stresses in a way that our generations and the ones, that are coming behind us don't.
Right.
Okay. But what's crazy is like with exposure, more knowledge and understanding, it typically tends to promote certain undesirable behaviors more than help it. For example, it's like Planned Parenthood or whatever, like in school, thinking that was going to stop it, but all it did was accelerate it because kids became more educated about.
So you mean sex education?
Sex education.
Okay, not Planned Parenthood.
No, well, so it was all inside of that whole spectrum.
That whole in the program.
Sex education, Planned Parenthood, all of that.
Okay.
The influx of knowledge and talking about it and all of those things actually accelerated the undesirable behavior, which I think is interesting. No opinion one way or the other. It's just that's what happened.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
You go back even further than that. You look at Adam and Eve in the garden. He said, "You eat this fruit, you'll have the knowledge of good and evil." You ate the fruit. You became aware and became like everything that you weren't supposed to be. You end up doing all of the things because like now this knowledge has also become the same thing that's handicapped you. It's like as I'm thinking about it, like in the moment, it's like what they call like analysis by paralysis. You keep learning, you keep getting information, you keep pursuing all of this stuff, and all it's doing is increasing your fear. It's giving you more understanding to where now you're building more reasons as to why you can't do something, why it's going to be so difficult. All of these things. And it's like you're just stacking on all of this information, but never taking the actions to overcome it and doing that in its fullness. And it's crazy how that works.
Yes.
Like it's not, I don't think people do it intentionally, but as we can see, that tends to be what happens more than anything else. You get so much of a knowledge, and like nowadays, we got, so many people are mental health advocates and all of these things. Again, nothing wrong with it. It's okay supporting these things and wanting it to be better. But I think as a people, more people just like talking about it, being in the conversation, having their feelings and their difficulties validated, and being able to be inside of these little, groups or communities of people who struggle with these things, rather than being the people who overcome those things, discuss how they overcame it, and are helping other people overcome it to where it's not even a problem anymore. Because you don't hear about this stuff. All you hear about is, this is the trigger, this is the trauma, this is what it is, blah, 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 blah. Rather than, I ain't a victim of no, circumstances that I've been through. Yeah, I was abused. What they got to do with me? Like, I don't care nothing about that no more. Like, it didn't shape who it didn't determine my life. Like, it wasn't the final say so and who I could become and whatnot. Even me, like, when I think about it, the only reason I started to unpack my childhood and the traumas and the stuff that I had been through was because as my vision grew, as my standards for myself grew, as I wanted to become more, like you said, you start hitting those invisible barriers and start figuring out, like, bro, why is it every time I get right here, I get stuck? Why is this part so difficult? And like you said, we start reading books. We start self-educating, and we like, oh, I got this limiting belief, or I'm holding on to this thing that I went through, whatever, that's making it harder for me to take certain actions.
Right.
And then you realize that either you get the outcome that you want more than anything, or you get to keep your trauma. You get to keep your limiting beliefs, and you just get to stop right there.
Right.
And now you get to this point to where you have to make a decision. Hold on to the stuff that limits me, and you get to be a part of the cool kids club over here of all of this, triggers me, bothers me, or this upsets me, and all of this stuff. Or you get to have your desired future, your desired outcome, become the person you want to become, but you're going to have to put all of that down. It's either your future, your desires, your goals, your dreams, or holding on to your baggage. But you got to pick one because you don't get both.
That's true. I know for me, like when we were going through, when I was going through my, self-discovery journey after I turned 30, I was so sick of being stuck. I was so sick of feeling like I had to learn the same lessons over and over again. I was so sick of like hating myself. I was so sick of it. I was like, why can't I push past this? Like, what is it here that's really stopping me from pushing past this? And then things happened, and I started seeing like what it was. And it was at that moment, it's like either you're going to allow the past that you really didn't have any control over, because a lot of the things we went through that was traumatic, you didn't have no control over, especially as a child. So it's like either I'm going to allow that to control my life, or I'm going to take ownership of my life, and I'm going to do what I feel like I need to do for me so I can get that desired result. I don't want no bullshit to have more power over me than I have power over myself right now in this moment.
Facts.
And that journey was so ugly. It was so hard. I don't think I ever cried that much ever in my life. But I needed to dissect everything that I had been through, all the craziness I had been through, and really be like, okay, yes, I went through that, but I'm not going to allow this to stop me. I don't want this limiting belief. I don't want that to hold me back. Why would I want to give that stuff the power over me?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to stay stuck. So again, like even when people talk about, mental health and all of this stuff, I'm like, y'all not really getting to the nitty gritty. Because when you really go on a journey of really like reflecting and discovering the things within yourself, that shit is uncomfortable. It is painful. It hurts and it is hard. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, well, am I okay with going through this hard journey of like pulling myself out of this, like yanking myself out? Or do I want to just relive the trauma every day because somebody said some shit that triggered me? Or whatever traumatic thing, or somebody's in a happy relationship and I feel like I can't have that. So now I'm triggered because they post is positive. Right. Like, come on, like take ownership of your life and figure out a way for you to overcome. If it takes therapy, that's fine. If it takes being in those groups, that's fine too. But if it's not moving you in the direction that you say you want to go, that you truly want to go, and it's just holding you there hostage, it's time to try something else. And that's coming from someone who had to do it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just like, I feel so strong about that because I want people to live the life that they say they want. I want people to not just be talking about it. Like, I want people to thrive. And us just talking about being triggered about everything or just being triggered by everything, like, it's not moving anyone in any positive direction at all.
It's like screaming for a hug. It's like you're just wanting somebody to just, coddle you and to hold you and stuff like that. And and the thing about it is, I don't want that to be one of those things where people misconstrue that as something like, there's a moment for that.
Yeah.
A moment.
Of course.
Just a moment. It's only a moment. That shouldn't be the whole, expected, outcome for your life. It shouldn't be the thing that just drags out. It's like, okay, you might need your moment where you need to get this out, to voice this stuff.
Yeah.
To where you might need to express your emotions, however you do it. Cry, sob, vent, whatever.
Been there.
Do all of that. Do all of that.
Yes.
Experience all of that. Like, get that. Once you get that out, though, it's time to do some new shit. That shouldn't be the thing that you're doing now, like expecting everybody to hug you and to hold you and to coddle you and to just
doing it for attention.
Yeah, doing all of that. Like, that shouldn't be dragged out for like the next year, 2, 5, 10, 20 of your life.
Oh,
that's some
yeah.
We see it.
Yeah.
We see it.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? So, and that's unfortunate because it's like, that's what we see so much of these days.
Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed out the point. You pointed out the point. Like, we're not trying to be insensitive like that. We're people who have been through this. Like, we've been through some crazy stuff in our life that we have not talked about and we probably won't talk about. And we had to go through our own journey of like healing, go through journeys of therapy, even with us, with our baby girl. Like, we've had to do all of these things. And I'm telling you, the coddling and the attention and just hold me, it's not enough. You have to do something. It's not, if you're expecting a hug and to be coddled your whole life, it's just unrealistic. Because at the end of the day,
good can come from that.
Because at the end of the day, someone can hug you and coddle you in that moment, but they're gonna leave and go live their own life. They care about themselves more than they care about you, and you have to care about yourself more than you care about somebody caring about your triggers. You have to care about the fact that you no longer want this trigger. You want to live a full, thriving, abundant life, and you don't want to be boxed in by, I can't do this, I can't go here, I can't. No, or I can't live this life. You can, but it starts with you.
Yeah.
And again, it's coming from someone who had to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, I had to do it.
You know what I know for both of us made such a huge impact in overcoming that was we got sick and tired of our own limits.
Boy.
Like, we got sick and tired of our own excuses. It's like, when you're trying to grow and to move forward, and when I say trying, I mean you are moving your body, your mind. Like, I mean, going into taking on challenges, like when we got into doing like 75 Hard that first time, when we were reading intense books, when we was taking the coaching classes, I mean, we were putting in work.
Yes.
Like, I mean, learning stuff, then going to apply it and doing
and talking about it, having conversation. Yes.
And like, I was trying this and I can't figure out how in the hell I keep making the same mistake. I'm doing something different. And then us talking through it, like, I think I'm thinking about this thing wrong. Like, so that's what I mean when I say try.
Right.
By try, I don't mean just like sitting into yourself thinking about it.
Yeah.
No, I mean actively moving your body, taking new actions, changing habits, adopting all of these new habits to be able to implement the things that you learn. That's what I mean when I say trying, not just thinking about it.
Right.
But when we were doing that, we had gotten to a point where we were so sick of our own limits. Like, I hate that this can bother me and shift my whole mood. I hate that this makes me uncomfortable to the point to where it just like throws me off completely. I hate that people got this power over me to where they can just say something, be a certain type of way, and it just completely disorients me and makes me feel upset and can shift my mood. Or I can't go in places like this because every time I do, I'm super anxious and I'm looking over my shoulder and I'm doing all of this stuff. We got sick and tired of our own limits because it was taking down the quality of our own lives.
Yes.
And it made us less of a lesser quality of a partner. Because now every time we go out, my wife got to think about, oh, I wonder how, we need to be in and out and stuff like that because, I get bothered and stuff like that. To where my baby girl was like, I know y'all, hate shopping and going out and being around crowds. So I'm going to try to go in here when everybody tries to start accommodating your triggers, and it's making their life worse because every time they trying to do something, all they can thinking about is you being bothered, you being upset, and how this makes you uncomfortable and crap like that. Like, and that sucks. As a parent, as a husband, as a spouse, when everybody has to have a lesser quality of life to accommodate the bullshit that you holding on to because you won't take the actions to go and do something about it.
Come on, babe. Come on.
And people don't think I remember hearing baby girls say stuff like that. It was like, oh, I know how dad gets and stuff like this when we're in places like that. And well, I wanted to go there, but I never said nothing because I know y'all hate this and, you can't be around stuff like this for long or whatever. And it don't even be nothing crazy or bad at all. It's just, man, imagine doing that for so long till you were like, hold the hell up. We can't even bond and connect this way because all you thinking about is how it bothers me or how you think I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Listen, have some people in your life that you care about enough to that degree and see how it's impacting them as well. And again, this don't fit for everybody in every situation, in every scenario.
Right.
But in the ones that do, and for me, this made it was a huge indicator that I could not hold on to that shit. I could not being able to go out and go places because of insecurities around like weight or size or looking a certain type of way, and not realizing that all of your other triggers from other things that you was dealing with mentally or whatever are what contributed to that. And just this snowball effect of how it just impacts so much in your life.
Right.
But man, just seeing how that impacts the people around you and how it makes them have to either tiptoe around you, be more cautious about what they do with you and how you're realistic, like in a very real way, ruining their experiences because of you just being there. Like, but it hurts.
Oof. That's real though.
Yeah.
I mean, that was really our life.
Won't even invite you people won't even invite you to certain things and try to spend time with you because like, oh, we always got to accommodate this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's real, babe.
It's bigger than just you wanting to be acknowledged and validated.
Right.
Like, you have to get to a point where you sick of your own crap. And and letting it control you and
Yes.
do something about it.
Yes.
Like, but we don't talk about that. Like, in the importance of being able to go through extreme pressure or hard life situations and not get like thrown off of whatever it is that you're in pursuit of. Like, now that's the goal.
Yeah.
How can I go through something hard and it don't even faze me? How can I go through or be in certain environments or experience certain things and then bounce back immediately?
Right.
Or not even be fazed by it, and my mind can still be sharp and clear, and I can leave this and still go home to my wife and love on her and be active with my baby girl and be aware of what's going on and be present and in the moment and show love and be happy and excited and experience all of these positive emotions, even though I just went through what before could have been hell, but now I'm like, shit just happened, man, it's nothing, whatever, I get over it, or I'll handle this thing, I'll take care of it. It ain't gonna faze me no more. Now I can be over here like, baby, how you doing? How was your day? Baby girl, you wanna go do this? Y'all wanna hang out? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it not faze you at all.
It's been such a beautiful experience to see that in you too. Like seeing you be so unfazed by things that I know for a fact would have like taken you down before, and you be like, nah, I'm good. And I'm like, babe, we good? Like everything's okay? Like, you know, doing my little check-in, and you be like, yeah, I'm straight. Like, hey, let's go get something to eat. Or let's go. I'm like, okay, we're back. Cool. So I love that. It does, like, it does impact your family. It does impact the people that you're around most of the time. And it's like, I love that. I love the work that we've done on ourselves, especially these past like almost 3 years now. How we were like, no, like we keep getting stuck here. It's hindering us individually. It's hindering our marriage in the way that we want to grow, our vision, our shared vision. It's hindering how we parent. What do we need to do individually to help us collectively so we can take our family in the direction that we want to go and take our life in the direction we want to go? So anything that was holding us back before, it is no longer there.
Yeah.
And when the moments come up to where it's like it's an old trigger, I love when those moments come up. I love it because it's a moment for me to be like, oh, we've grown.
Yeah.
Oh, we've grown.
Like, it used to bother me. It don't,
Right.
it don't faze me.
It
no
don't
more.
faze me no more. Like, oh, especially when we reflect a lot. So it was one week where we was going through stuff back to back to back to back. And like in the past, that really would have taken us both down. Like we would have been like, man, it's like, all right. But we went through that week and then we reflected on the whole week together. We were like, dang, like we different.
Yeah.
Like we really different. We've really, really grown. And we didn't just talk about growing. We have the evidence to show we grew, because you don't know that you've grown through something until you went through those old triggers. You went through those things that would have set you back before. You need a test to see if you've grown.
You have to be introduced to the same thing.
Yes.
That used to trigger you, that used to bother you, that used to throw you off.
Absolutely.
You have to be put back in that environment to know for sure that you have overpowered it.
Yep.
And again, that doesn't mean that for everything.
You know, people take this
That
like,
doesn't
what?
mean it for everything. Like some stuff, you know, is different.
Yeah.
However, you have to be able to introduce yourself to certain environments that would normally like sway you and throw you off, and then see how you're able to overpower those situations in the now and not be phased and move by 'em.
And sometimes it's not even like life is gonna do its things.
Yeah. You ain't like you gotta go look for
You
it.
don't have to look for it. Like you don't have. Life is gonna keep doing its thing. It's gonna throw you curveballs. The lessons are gonna come. So it's gonna be like, okay, this life experience is gonna happen again. This is what you did before. Are you gonna do the same shit you did before, or are you gonna do something different? That way we can see that you've grown from this. So yeah, you don't gotta go looking for it. It's gonna come regardless.
Yeah.
Because you have to be tested to see if you learn the lesson. Like, and that's just what it is.
You gotta get tested.
You have to.
Like you don't get to avoid that.
Right. Because like people are like, oh my God, I've grown so much. And then you run back into that same situation. You're like, no, you reverted back. You didn't grow.
Nah, because
Telling yourself what you think you would do versus what you actually would do, like it's not growth. You know what I'm saying?
what people really be thinking about is the fact that life is good right now when nothing's bothering me.
Exactly.
Therefore, I've grown.
Right.
No,
Right.
you're in summer right now.
Mm-hmm.
Your life is in summer right now. It's cool, but winter's on the way.
Winter is coming.
Winter is on the way. Like something unexpected is gonna happen. Some unforeseen environment. Something is going to happen and you're not going to be thinking about it.
Right.
And then when you win that winter, it's going to test, did you actually grow through that thing? Did you actually learn from that experience? Did you get the tools, knowledge, and resources to be able to overpower it when you need to? It's like, man, it's like something we used to tell baby girl all the time. It's not about you being able to be or to do the right things when everything is great. It's not about you being able to do a thing. It's about when the time comes to where it's necessary for your character to show up. It's necessary for you to be able to show that you've grown and be able to like really put those developed character traits into action. That's when it counts. It counts when you're introduced to a moment to where you could backpedal, to where you could go back into old habits and things like that. That's when it counts. It don't matter when everything is good and chill and life is going, amazing. There's sunshine and rainbows and shit. Like, yeah, like we like those days. But the only time it really matters, it really, really, really matters.
Really.
Is when something shows up and it tries to pull you back into it and you like, nah, that ain't me no more. This don't impact me like that. But what I've also learned is that the winter. I've learned that the winters are far less cold and far easier to endure when you've actually grown and gone through the lesson.
I agree.
When you've actually built up that resilience and you've learned to deal with things in a better way, you get through that winter in your life so much faster, so much smoother. And it's like, because your awareness of the things that bothered you before or that would throw you off before, it's like, it's so high. It's not even heightened. You've elevated above it so much to where it's not even a speed bump. It's not even.
You're better equipped.
You don't even acknowledge it.
You're better
it's
equipped.
Like, bro, that don't bother me no more.
Yeah.
So it's not. It's like it's not even there. Like you said, you've built. You're more equipped.
Yeah.
And so it makes those harder times that much easier to manage, and it gives you the tools to be able to navigate through them way faster without losing yourself, falling off, sliding back into old patterns and habits and stuff like that. And then before you know it, man, you just growing at a whole nother rate and level because you're not slowed down as often. So yeah, like that's the thing you don't see coming.
Yeah.
How quickly you bounce back from stuff and you can keep making progress without having to learn the same lessons over and over again.
Absolutely, babe.
That's a dope thing to reflect on. Like when you can look at your own life and see how that's played out, like that's crazy work.
Especially for us over and over again.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So that's a thought for today, man. Like just wanting people to think about it. Like when you think about mental health for real, like don't just be thinking about, oh, this triggers me, this bothers me, or I've been through all of this stuff. Like you got to find a way to overcome that stuff and stop trying to be a part of these communities of other hurt people. Because trauma bonding is real.
Very much so.
And listen, it is. I hate saying. I really hate using trendy words like triggered and toxic and stuff, but it is.
Yeah,
it is very toxic. Like it is. It's disgusting because it does more harm for people than good. Like bonding over your misery and your pain and stuff like that. That's the last thing I want to talk about.
Right.
But it's like finding ways to be able to care for yourself and other people without needing pain to be there. Like give yourself that gift. Like I don't even want to hear about nobody else's more than one time because the next time I plan on hearing about how you've grown through it or how it doesn't bother you as much or how you've overcome that or at least the work you're doing to overcome it.
Right.
And seeing the progress in your actions. But just like encouraging people, like when you seeing and hearing these conversations around mental health, like don't allow it to pull you back into the same thing that's limited you for all of these years.
Right.
Because that's not good for your mental health.
I mean, you ain't wrong.
Real is real, man. Any closing thoughts for you, baby?
No, this was a good conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's just our perspective, you know. Not everybody will agree with it. That's fine.
Take what you can, leave what you don't need.
If this triggered you, this bothered you or whatever, I'm sorry that happened for you. It's unfortunate for you. Like, I'm sorry. But the thing about it is, it's like, this is what we've learned and what we've grown through and what's helped us get to the point to where we are now, to where we have gotten more mentally resilient and we have been able to grow through what we've gone through and been able to resolve so much of the things that once held us back. Mm-hmm. This is what's worked for us, thinking about it in this way, thinking about it in this light, and the type of work that we've done to be able to have a fuller, more fulfilling, meaningful, quality, life, rather than being held back by the stuff that used to have a tighter grip on us. Yeah. So this is what's worked for us. And if it works for you also, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But having said that, my name is John Tron, family. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. This is my beautiful queen,
Adoria.
And we are one dope couple. And until next time, family, peace and love.